I've been so many places in my lifetime. So songs on me.
Donny Hathaway was more than just a soul singer, he was a musical genius whose voice and piano transcended genres. From his gospel-filled childhood to his iconic collaborations with Roberta Flack, Hathaway's music captured the depth of human emotion. But behind the brilliance was a man battling severe mental illness, misunderstood and neglected by an industry that didn't know how to support him. Despite his struggles, Hathaway left us timeless classics like A Song for You and Someday We'll All Be Free, songs that continue to inspire new generations. His tragic death at just 33 remains a mystery, but his legacy is stronger than ever. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover more about forgotten legends, untold truths, and the power of music, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more videos like this one. Let's keep celebrating the artists who shaped history. In the vast, emotive world of soul music, few names echo with the haunting beauty and unparalleled brilliance of Donny Hathaway. His was a voice that seemed to channel the heavens, lifting spirits, soothing hearts, and making time itself stand still. His piano playing was equally transcendent, weaving jazz, gospel, and classical influences into a tapestry of sound that felt both timeless and deeply personal. But behind the unforgettable melodies and his iconic collaborations lay a darker, more painful truth. It's a story of mental illness, systemic neglect, and a tragic death that remains shrouded in mystery. It's a story the music industry has often chosen to forget, unwilling to confront the uncomfortable realities of Hathaway's struggles or the role it played in his tragic decline. This is the tale of brilliance laced with pain. This is the story of Donny Hathaway, the soul legend the industry tried to bury. Donny Edward Hathaway was born on October 1, 1945, in Chicago, Illinois. But it was in St. Louis, Missouri, where his life and musical destiny began to take shape. Raised by his grandmother, Martha Pitts, a deeply religious gospel singer, Hathaway was immersed in music from an early age. Martha recognized something divine in him, an extraordinary gift that could not be ignored. By the time he was just 3 years old, Hathaway was already singing in church, his angelic voice captivating congregations. By 7, he had become a local prodigy, mastering the piano with an intuition that astounded his teachers. He was not just playing music, he was living it, breathing it, and channeling something far greater than himself. Hathaway's prodigious talent earned him a scholarship to Howard University in Washington, D.C., a prestigious institution that became a crucible for Black artistic and intellectual excellence. Music historians and fans alike are finally giving Hathaway the recognition he deserves. His brilliance, once overshadowed by tragedy, is now being celebrated anew. Donny Hathaway was more than a singer. He was a prophet in pain, a genius in chaos, and a man who sought to heal the world through his art, even as he struggled to heal himself. Though the industry may have turned its back on him in life, the people, decades later, are still listening. His music continues to resonate, speaking to the deepest parts of the human soul. Donny Hathaway, we remember you. We honor you. And in 2025, your brilliance is finally being seen, heard, and felt. The soul legend they tried to bury is rising again, note by note, stream by stream, heart by heart. Roberta Flack remained one of his staunchest supporters, refusing to give up on her friend. In 1979, she invited him to reunite and record new material. The sessions were tumultuous, Hathaway's condition made the process unpredictable, but they managed to create the timeless ballad, Back Together Again. The song reached the Billboard charts, offering a glimmer of a comeback. But the hope was short-lived. On January 13, 1979, just days after recording with Flack, Hathaway was found dead outside the Essex House Hotel in New York City. He had fallen from the 15th floor. The official ruling was suicide. But questions lingered. Friends and family insisted that Hathaway had been in good spirits, excited about his new music and optimistic about the future. Some speculated that his schizophrenia had led to a moment of confusion or terror, causing him to jump in a desperate attempt to escape a perceived threat. Others wondered if foul play might have been involved. To this day, the circumstances of his death remain unclear. What is certain is that the world lost one of its purest and most profound musical voices that night. Donny Hathaway was only 33 years old. For decades after his death, Hathaway's story faded into the background. His songs were covered, his voice sampled, but his name was often forgotten in discussions of soul music legends. But in recent years, a new generation has rediscovered his brilliance. On platforms like TikTok and Spotify, Hathaway's music has found a new audience. Young people are captivated by the emotional depth of his voice, the richness of his lyrics, and the vulnerability that permeates every note. A Song for You has become an anthem of raw emotion, while Someday We'll All Be Free is embraced as both a mental health cry and a hymn of black liberation. In an era of overproduced music and auto-tune, Hathaway's raw artistry feels like a revelation. Documentaries, podcasts, and online tributes have reignited interest in his life and legacy. At Howard, he honed his skills, diving into classical compositions, jazz theory, and gospel traditions. It was there that he met like-minded musical talents, including Roberta Flack and Leroy Hutson, who would play pivotal roles in his life. Although Hathaway left Howard before graduating, his time there was transformative. It shaped his artistic vision, a bold and unique blend of gospel's spiritual depth, classical music's precision, jazz's improvisation, and soul's raw emotional power. In 1969, Hathaway released his first solo single, The Ghetto, Part 1, a politically charged anthem with a jazz-infused groove. It was a bold statement of purpose, announcing his arrival as an artist deeply attuned to the struggles and triumphs of black life in America. A year later, his debut album, Everything Is Everything, was released, showcasing tracks like Tryin' Times and Thank You Master, for My Soul. These songs not only highlighted his spiritual depth but also his unflinching commitment to social consciousness. Hathaway was not merely a performer, he was a vessel for something far greater. Then came his 1971 self-titled follow-up album, Donny Hathaway, which cemented his status as one of the most profound voices in soul music. His rendition of Leon Russell's A Song for You became his signature, delivered with such raw vulnerability and pain that it felt like a personal confession. Hathaway wasn't just a singer. He was a storyteller, a truth teller, and a healer. While Hathaway's solo work earned critical acclaim, it was his collaborations with Roberta Flack that catapulted him into mainstream success. Together, they created an alchemy that few musical duos could replicate. Their version of Where Is the Love in 1972 was a revelation, winning them a Grammy and cementing their place in soul music history. Their voices blended seamlessly, weaving together tales of longing, devotion, and heartbreak. Critics hailed them as the next Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, but their chemistry was uniquely their own. They weren't just singing love songs, they were channeling the complexities of human connection. But behind the scenes, Hathaway's struggles were becoming harder to hide. He suffered from severe depression, retreating from the public eye for long periods. Friends and collaborators noticed his increasing unpredictability. One day he would be joyful and inspired, and the next, consumed by paranoia and fear. The music industry, notorious for its lack of understanding and support for mental health, was ill-equipped to handle Hathaway's struggles. In the 1970s, mental illness was a taboo subject, especially for black men in the public eye. Hathaway was eventually diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, a condition that would plague him for the rest of his life. He was hospitalized multiple times, but the treatments of the era were rudimentary and often ineffective. Despite his struggles, Hathaway continued to create extraordinary music. In 1973, he released Extension of a Man, widely regarded as his magnum opus. The album opened with I Love the Lord, He Heard My Cry, a breathtaking orchestral suite that fused gospel and classical elements into a transcendent musical prayer. It was a declaration of faith and purpose, even as his world grew darker. As the 1970s progressed, Hathaway's mental health deteriorated further. His paranoid delusions became more intense. Friends and collaborators noticed his growing isolation and erratic behavior. He began to believe that recording equipment was being used to harm him, and that the government was monitoring his every move. The same industry that had once celebrated his genius now began to distance itself. Producers stopped calling, and record labels grew hesitant to work with him. Hathaway became increasingly isolated, his brilliance overshadowed by his struggles. Yet, there were moments of hope.